Good morning, G. Are you presenting the first draft? Good morning, Alvaro. Okay. You can hear nothing? I'm sorry. G, can you hear me? Ran, good morning. You're the first presenter. Would you say hi so we can do a mic check? Good morning, Ran. Can you say hi this morning?
Yeah. Hi.
Thank you. Thank you, Ran. You're the first speaker, so I wanted to make sure the mics were working.
Yes,
I will
thank you.
start our Thank you. I will start our introduction. Any other speaker who would like to say hi this morning? Okay, we'll go ahead and start. This is the note well. If I'm acquainted with all of you, you've seen the note well before. I just remind you that this is an ITF interim and the ITF policies on the code of conduct on patents apply. So this note well is helping you find the right uh, BCPs to read if you haven't read them about patents or patent applications. The short version is you need to disclose any that are controlled by you or your sponsor or not participate in the discussion. As a participant, you acknowledge that the written audio, video, and photographic records may be made public. Any personal information will be treated in accordance with the ITF policy statement, and we work respectfully and hopefully helpfully in these discussions. So we're going to start. This interim is an interim regarding drafts on BGPLS and SR. We've tried as chairs to catch up after our CAR CT work. Part of the work we're catching up on is drafts that have been sitting waiting for adoption in BGPLS and SR. The chairs are working, all of us, to try to also catch up on our shepherding work. I will try to send out a status on Tuesday. There are many things that need to be caught up. Um, and we'll probably also send one out on Wednesday after we have a midweek meeting. So the agenda for today is online, but we will cover 5 drafts that are proposed for adoption. I've sent out Shepherd reports based on conversations the chairs have had. We have asked Spring and Tees in many cases to look at drafts to see that we're aligned. Alvaro has been kind enough to check or give us feedback on that. Uh, and the rest of the interims for June, just to look forward, we are continuing with the FlowSpec V2 interims. Our focus in that is simply to get the minimal set for a FlowSpec basic IP that includes user ordering. The rest of the discussion is to make sure that our foundation is good to add on later for more IP filters, more IP actions, and perhaps other non-IP actions. On June 24th, circle that date, we will have a draft 00 interim. We did this before IETF 119 and found it increased the value of our discussion at the IETF in person. The draft 00 is if you wish to present a draft 00, you must present your draft at this interim meeting. Other drafts which have been presented before, you can provide an update, but this initial meeting gives us time to send you comments, send the authors comments for the 00 draft, and to start some good discussion on your draft before IETF. Just in case you missed it, this is our function that we're trying to get with FlowSpec v2. Why did we take that? Not to add lots of complexity, but hopefully to simplify the initial uh, requirement for FlowSpec v2 and allow add-ons. Why we call them operating as design team, we're trying to get more feedback. We've not been as successful in getting lots of feedback, so I'm going to press for that on the email and with people who attend these other interims. Well, back to the slides. We're going to start with draft Chen IDR BGP LSSR policy NRP SR policy extensions for network resource partitions. And the presenter is Ran Chen. Just a minute, Ran, I will start your slides. And if you wish, I will advance the slides for you.
Yeah, thank you. Hello everyone, I'm Ran from ZTE. Today I would like to talk about SR policies extensions for NRP in BGP-LS. Next, please. Yeah, this is for the introductions. RFC 9543 introduced the concept NRP, which is a subset of resources and associated policies in the underlying network. And draft IDR SR policy NRP defines the extension to BGP SR policy to specify the NRP which the SR policy candidate path is associated with. Draft BGPRS as a policy describes a mechanism to distribute SR policy information to external companies using BGPRS. The AI NRP is a network resource attribute associated with the SR policy. It is also an important attribute of the SR policy and needs to be reported to the controller. The notification of SR policy with NRP information need to be connected and distributed to the network controller for past computation, re-optimization, service placement, and network visualization. This document defines a new TLV which enabled the head end to report the configuration and the states of the NRP with the SR policy candidate path is associated with. Next, please. Yeah, next is the extension for SR policy NRP. A new SR policy state TLV called NRP TLV to carry the NRP which the SR policy candidate path is associated with. This is the format of the NRP TLV. Uh, for the NRPID, it is it is the domain significant identifier of the network resource partition, and the value 0 and 0x FF are reserved. Next, please. This is the procedure. As a policy, country path may be instantiated with a specific NRP on the head end node via a local configuration, PCEP or BDP as a policy. Then the state and the attributes of the NRP associated with the country path of as a policy are encoded in the BGPLS attribute field as a policy state TLV. The SR policy state TLV, which is defined in draft BGPLS as a policy, are not changed to report the as a policy candidate path state and attributes. The NRPTLV is included to report the state of the NRP. Next, please. For the thanks Shepherd review, it includes two problems, and in our new version, we has been updated according to the Shepherd comments. For let's see the details of the problem. For the first problem, the head end needs to report why the head end needs to report the configuration and the state of as a policy carrying NRP information. As defined in draft BPRS as a policy, information can be used by controller for path computation, service placement, network visualization, and the NRP is a network resource attribute associated with the as a policy. It is also an important attribute of the as a policy, and needs to be reported to the controller. The notification of the as a policy with NRP information is also used for the same function. And one of the most important function is to verify is verify consistency. For next, why BGPRS in BGP is the best protocol to pass this state? For this question, we think when reporting as a policy information, the corresponding protocol is BGPRS. So as an attribute of ISA policy, so NRP is reported together with the ISA policy informations, and in some case, where the head end nodes of the ISA policy may not implement the PCEP protocol. So a general mechanism to collect the ISA policy state from the head end is needed. So we can use BGPLS. And the second problem for the security configuration, the security configuration of the BGPLS as a policy also applied to this document, and in the new version we have updated it. For next, please. And the next comments will come and the working group adoption. Thank you.
Joel, please go ahead.
Thank you. Ran, I am a little confused about exactly what information you are carrying because I don't understand the relationship between the 4 bytes in your BGPLS advertisement and the information other drafts discuss. So to be specific and clear and give you a question you can answer, what is the relationship between the information you're describing in this BGPLS advertisement and the information described in draft IETF Spring Resource Aware segments?
Hi, John. You mean the relationship with the resource segment seed?
That's what I asked, because resource aware segments are about supporting, among other things, NRPs. And so if you're advertising NRPs to be used in policies, which in the abstract makes good sense, how does this advertisement relate to the mechanism defined in the adopted spring draft?
Uh, John, this draft is used to be the packet carried the NRP identifier, but the results seed is segment seed. Really,
Yeah, but if you
no,
use the
yeah,
way the resource segment works, there is no other explicit NRP ID in the packet. The identifier for the
yeah.
resources, the network resource partition, is the resource SIDS. So I don't understand how this use of the NRP ID would relate to the segment routing defined a spring adopted but not completed. It's still under development. It may change. That's okay. But the two mechanisms would seem to need to align, and they don't, as far as I can tell.
Okay, thank you, John. I will let's discuss further in the mail list.
Okay.
Thank you.
I will restate my question. I understand that the head end, that the controller needs to be able to indicate policies, but I didn't understand your point about why the head end needs to report the configuration and the NRP. I still don't quite understand the resolution to my first problem. Perhaps you could restate it again.
Okay. I think one of the most important functions is to verify consistency. Uh, uh, in maybe the ISA policy can be configured via netconfig, netconf. So the head end needs to report the NRP attribute of the ISA policy, and this information can be used for the controller to can tell the controller that the configured ISA policy is associated with a slice.
So the NRP ID, what does that particularly add to that alignment of states? Can you explain that to me?
Yeah, this is the state. This is this NLP ID is extended in as a policy state tier way. So I think this
So
reports
I
the
still
state.
don't.
So it reports. Sorry.
Please go ahead.
So I think it's mainly to report the state of the NLP.
So it reports an ID for the NRP, but it doesn't seem to give us additional things except the flag. I will let Jidong and Keitan go on to discuss this. I still, perhaps you could explain this further on the mail list.
Sure. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just I want to reply to Joe's question about the relationship with the resource-aware segment draft. Actually, I think this draft is mainly related to the mechanism of using a dedicated NRP ID in the packet, so that in that case, when the packet is encapsulated at the head end of the SI policy, in addition to adding the segment list, an NRP ID needs to also be added based on the information in the SI policy. So this information is, I think, is also needed when we deploy the SI policy for a specific NRP. And this draft is about the report of the status. We also have a draft for the provisioning of the SI policy, which is associated with the NRP. So this is, I think, a complementary mechanism to the resource-aware segment approach for the NRP, right? Hope that helps.
Joel, you may jump the queue and indicate whether it answers your question.
Okay, I typed it into the chat, but I'll comment. That doesn't answer the question because this draft and the other one that Alvaro typed into the chat doesn't cite a draft that defines and has been adopted as a working item by a working group a means of using an NRP ID, which would have to explain the relationship between that work and the existing work on how to carry NRP IDs in MPLS SR and how to identify NRPs, not NRP IDs in MPLS SR and SRv6, neither of which currently are anticipated to use a separate NRP ID. So it needs to explain the relationship.
G, did you want to respond to Joel? This is more of a discussion of these drafts so we can refine them quickly. Did you want to respond to Joel, G? And then we'll pick up Keitan.
Yeah, let me try to reply to Joe quickly. I think the encapsulation of NRPID is not in the Spring Working Group. It is like in 6-man, or maybe there are other NRPID encapsulation approach. So that is like not dependent on the resource-aware segment approach. We consider complementary. They are maybe suitable for different scenarios. So when you use an NRPID in the packet, you may use the legacy or traditional segment to just indicate the path, not to use them for both the path and the resource. And the NRPID will be used to indicate the resource for packet processing. So that the encapsulation of the NRPID can be used in SR networks, and it can also be used in the maybe non-SR networks. So that is the relationship I see with the resource-aware drafts. Okay.
Ketan Talaulikar, Cisco. So is okay if I go ahead?
Sorry, please go ahead.
Okay.
Joel, just a moment. Joel's response is in the chat. He says 6-men work on NRP would still need to explain the relationship to SRv6, and it doesn't seem to apply to SR MPLS at all. The authors should look to try to explain that, and if we have any time after Caton's questions, I'll allow some more discussion on this. Caton, thank you for your patience with me.
No problem. Ketan Talaulikar, Cisco. If I understood G, the NRP ID associated with SR policy is something that needs to be encoded on all packets that are steered through that SR policy. G is my understanding. G and RAN is my understanding correct on that?
Yeah.
Right. So it is
How could
not
yeah.
that. Yeah. Okay. So it's not something that traffic flows associated with an NRP being being steered on that SR policy, right? It's not, the steering is still based on whatever we have existing for NRP ID. This is just about encoding the NRP ID in the packet itself as it is steered through the SR policy. My question there is that let's say there is a packet which is coming in transiting through SRv6 or SR MPLS domain. Somewhere in the middle, it needs to be steered into an SR policy. So NRP is encoded in the packet. How do we ensure that that NRP ID is, let's say, removed after the tail end or the end point of that SR policy? Do G or Ran, do you understand the question?
Yeah. I understand your question. Just let me think about it.
Yeah, sure.
How to
I mean,
remove
what I'll
you?
say
Yeah.
is, yeah, what I'll say is that I mean, I'll kind of agree with Joel that it will be helpful if some of these things are covered in a spring working group draft. It'll help clarify all these cases and scenarios because these are specific to SR policies.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Cotton. You mean how to remove how to remove the NRP ID in the tail of the as a policy tail node, right?
Yes, when it has exited the SR policy, to call it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I will
So
reply
maybe
on the mail list. Let me
Yeah,
think
we can
about it.
discuss on the
Thank you.
mailing list. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Hi, Ketan, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
Hello? Yeah.
we can hear you, G.
I just try to briefly answer your question. So, in my understanding, at the header node, when you add encapsulated the seed list for an SR policy, you add the encapsulated new IPv6 header and with necessary SRH, right? And in this case, you also add the hop-by-hop extension header with NRP ID at the header node. and when the packet reaches to the tail end, it will pop or decapsulate the outer IPv6 header with its extension headers, including the hop-by-hop extension header and the SRH. In that case, we will just
Okay.
remove this information.
Okay. So the expectation is that only encap can be used, not something like insert, and it is something NRP is supposed to be removed on the tail end, right? That's what you are saying.
Right, that is what
And
we think for the
yeah.
encapsulation mode.
Okay. And
And
how would the same work on the SRMPLS case?
Uh,
I mean, we
for
can. I think this may be a
SMPLS,
long discussion. We can
yeah,
discuss on the spring mailing list, perhaps. Yeah.
it would be good for
for
this one to copy the IDR list as far as either a summary or the rest. We need to resolve some of these issues in order to go forward with adoption.
okay, maybe for SMPLS, there will be some draft working on the encapsulation based on MPLS, and it will also describe this behavior in that draft.
Right. If it doesn't apply to SRV6 SRMPLS, then that needs to be clearly set. If it does, it needs to point, and it also needs to answer Joel's questions. I'll try to get a good summary of this that I will add to the shepherd's comment on this. And I would appreciate help from Joel and Ran and G and Ketan to make sure that I've got the facts straight. Any more comments? Okay, we will go on to the next presentation. As you noted, these presentations are going to be a high discussion because we're trying to work on pre-adoption. Thanks to the advice of Alvaro and our past AD and other ADs, we're trying to do more work before adoption. Yao, I believe this is your presentation. I will be glad to run the slides for you.
Okay, thanks, Sue. Hi, I'm Yao Liu from ZTE, and I'm presenting this draft on behalf of the co-authors. And this draft is about advertising SRMPS adjacency set algorithm information in BGP. And next, please. Here's a quick recap because it is a quite simple draft, and currently. When delivering SR policy via BGP, SR algorithm can be optionally specified in segment subtiers for SRMPS prefixed and SRv6 prefixed and SRv6 adjacent set, but the algorithm cannot be carried in SRMPS adjacent set. So, and there's an RSR working group draft claims that the algorithm can also be included as part of an adjacency set advertisement for SRMPS in IGP. So this document defines new segment types to provide optional algorithm for SRMPS adjacency sets when delivering SR policy via BGP. Next, please. And here are the new segment subtiers for the SRMPS adjacency with optional algorithm. And basically, they are existing subtiers with an optional algorithm field, and the format aligned with those defined in the IDR BGP SR sec types extent draft. And you can find the details of the new segment types in the draft. Next, please. And this slide is also about the details of the draft. So I'm gonna skip it. Next, please. And here's the history of the draft. And it was presented on IDR several times. And after IETF 116, it was sent to Spring for review and was updated based on the comments. And the first adoption call started on 2022, on September 2022 was not passed since there was not enough support on the list. And we updated the draft based on the comments received during and after this adoption call, and we presented it again on IETF 119 to request for adoption again. And the mail has been sent to Spring last week for review on the new segment types. And the version 10 is uploaded based on Sue's pre-adoption Sheffield review, and the changes are mainly editorial. And the authors would like to thank Keaton and Ned and Zhenqiang and of course Sue again for their helpful comments and suggestions. Next, please. And we request for more review and comments, and we are waiting for a response from all suggestions for Spring on the new segment types. And we believe it's ready for the second working group adoption. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yao. Joel and Alvaro, any comments on the new segment type discussion from Spring?
I don't recall any issues on this one.
Are these new segment types reasonable for us to go ahead and try an adoption? Have you proposed these segment types?
That's a good question, but I mean, you should only be working on them if they're proposed somewhere. I just don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if the draft was discussed, but I don't know if the underlying definition of the segment types has been done. I mean, segment type allocation is defined to be very wide open, but it does need to be done somewhere. I don't know that that step has been done.
Okay. As just
Alvaro, did I forget something?
No, I don't think you did. I'm assuming that both are being done in this draft.
Or you think this draft itself is requesting the allocation of? And that would be permitted.
That's what I correct.
Rules do
Because
permit that. I didn't realize that from the phrasing.
okay. In Keaton, in the past for the seg types, didn't those originate from the Spring draft first rather than from an IDR draft, or did I get lost in this?
Yes, so they were defined in the SR policy architecture. So they were in a Spring draft.
Okay.
And I don't think this document, the text currently in the document doesn't explicitly say that it is defining or introducing these new segment types, and it's not requesting for their allocation in the segment routing seg types INR registry, if I recall correctly. But please correct me. But I think it could do that as Joel suggested.
My concern on this to Joel and Alvaro is the mechanisms for BGP are one thing. The validity of a new segment type seems to be in Spring's ballpark to ask or make sure it's in your architecture. I realize it's flexible, but
Well, the way the rules are written, you don't even need an RFC to allocate one. Anybody can get a segment type.
okay.
Now, yes, we'd prefer that they got reviewed and that were consistent, but the working group adopted a set of policies that make it fairly wide open. That's why I said, if they want to put, probably the simplest thing to do would be to put the explicit allocation in this draft, send it back to Spring and let us do a call to say, does anybody see a problem with these allocations? Because it is reasonable to make sure that check is done. And then assuming that Spring doesn't see a problem, you can actually do it all in one draft.
Okay.
And that way we coordinate the work.
Okay. Yao, you know what your next step is. Please go put the request for the new segment types in this draft. Send it to Joel and Alvaro for a call in Spring, and then we'll call it in IDR.
Okay, so if I understand it right, I need to explicit write it in this idea draft that I require Spring to allocate 4 more segment types, right?
Anna allocates the new segment types. The K10 has kindly put the reference in the chat. If you would make sure you put into this draft an allocation request that goes in your IANA session for these new segment types. And then once you finish it, send it to the IDR and the Spring chairs, and we'll review, and then we'll request Spring to review. Okay? And then we'll start the IDR adoption. Okay. That's very helpful.
I didn't notice. Yes, that's very helpful. Thanks. I
Well,
update the draft and then send it to.
Yes. Yao, I'm still learning this part of the mechanism as well. So I'm glad we had this time to talk. We'll pick up the second adoption once that's happened. Okay.
Sure, of course. Thanks.
Thank you, Yao. Any other comments on this draft? Jeff.
Yeah, so I think these are sort of process comments. One of the headaches that we've been running into with sets of these BGPLS related documents is that in some cases they are preceding work that needs to happen in parallel in Spring. So question to Alvaro and Joel. You're saying things like the segment types as an example. The policy that you've established is very flexible. Is there any sort of checkpointing you'd prefer to see where we don't let things get adopted in IDR prior to the segment types being cross-checked in Spring? Or how would you envision that going?
I'm going to say it's hard to tell for types like these one, like this, like the ones I find here. Yes, we said I think we're fine with them going through in one draft, etc. I believe that the way the registry is set up for specification required, right? Which means that you don't even need an IETF document. So what I'm going to say is that since we're all working in the IETF, whenever something comes in, please check in with us.
Certainly the check-in is what we're talking about. I'm sort of asking whether we should gate adoption in IDR.
I'm going to say yes, gated based on the check on Spring. That doesn't mean the Spring is always going to reply, with strong support or not or anything, but at least check. Yes.
Okay.
Joel, does that sound good to you?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay, and a very small detail, since we're also registry land at the moment. So you gave a nice reference to the IANA registry, and right now, in a habit that I'm not personally fond of, the types are just named by letters of the Roman alphabet. Um, the draft that we've seen presented here, basically is squatting on the next set of the letters. Do you have any opinions about that? As the party that manages the registry, should these things just be TBDs of some sort, or do you care?
Jeff, I think this draft, what's written today, is trying to get code points. So not
Yes.
letters, but they would be they should be code points. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it should be, I don't know, early allocation or something like that, I would guess.
And I think the point I'm trying to highlight is that they sort of cross both streams. So we get the code points, in LS obviously is one of the pieces, but the request is for like type L, and type L has a registry in the code point that Alvaro
Yep.
just pasted back to the chat. So uh, clearly there's sort of like both of these things need to happen roughly at the same time. So that means that both allocations need to happen again, both at the same time. And given the document's not adopted yet, that pre-registration has not happened. So effectively, we're squatting on letters, so to speak.
Okay. We'll take a note. Yeah, what this means is your letters could change. Let's try to get, now that we have a good process, let's try to get the draft expeditiously over to Spring, get their approval, get back to IDR, adopt, and then we can do early allocation for these. Okay? That'll fix the
Okay.
allocation. So as soon as you send it to both groups of chairs, and I believe Joel and Alvaro will do the right thing.
Okay. Get it.
Thank you. Thank you. This has been very
Thank you.
productive. Next is
Thank you.
Chang Wang, and I believe you have the next two presentations, but please stop after the first one so we can make sure we have the action items. And
Yeah,
I will
hi.
run your slides for you.
Yeah, hi. This is Chanwan Lin from New H3C Technology. This draft is about the BP extension of SR policy for head-end behavior. Next slide, please. Let's review the latest modification to this draft. First, updating the reference. Second, we have removed the reference to draft first spring insertion, as well as the head-end behavior, edge in cab and edge in cab reduce, as they have not been adopted by Spring WG. And the third, the session 3 has been removed because this draft will not include BPL's extension. Next slide. FC 8986 defined four SRv6 policy head-end behaviors. Edge encapsulated SR head-end will encapsulation in SR policy. Edge encap reduce. Edge encaps with reduced encapsulation. And edge encap level 2. Edge encap applied to received L2 frames, and edge encap L2 reduced. Using BP protocol is a popular way to distribute SR policies from control to head-end, and the SRv6 banding seed subtheory can be attached to advertise the banding seed and its behavior, such as end B6 in caps and end B6 in cap reduced. which determine the head-end behavior for packets steered by red BSID. However, a head-end can be steered a packet flow into an SR policy in many other ways, such as per destination steering, or per flow steering, or policy-based steering. The network operator has to use the additional tools like netconfig to signal the head-end forwarding behavior. This document defines extension for BPSR policy to specify the head-end behavior. Next slide. Two new subtheories are defined under the SR policy candidate path. First, the head-end behavior subtheories for L3 traffic is used to carry the head-end behavior of an SR policy candidate path. Second, the L2 head-end behavior subtheory is used to carry the L2 head-end behavior of an SR policy candidate path. They are optional and must not appear more than once in the SR policy encoding. Next slide, please. The following values of head-end behavior fields are defined. First, edge in cap head-end behavior as defined in RFC 18986, and second, edge in cap reduced head-end behavior as defined in RFC 18986. Next slide. The L2 head-end behavior subtheory encode the default head-end behavior for L2 traffic. There are also two behaviors fields are defined, edge in cap L2 and edge in cap L2 reduced. Next slide. Yeah, let's go. Thank you.
Keaton, go ahead when you are in queue. Go ahead, Keaton. I'm not hearing you, Keaton. Keaton, I'm not hearing your voice. Is anyone else hearing Keaton?
Hello.
There,
Can
there
you
you
hear me now?
are.
Okay, I'm
Good.
sorry. Refresh. Uh, I was just wondering for the need for this for this TLV, and I'm wondering because whether whether the L3 or the L2 behavior is imposed is actually determined by the traffic that is getting steered on the SR policy. So if it's an L2 traffic that is steered, then you know we will have a head-end behavior being used, and if it's an L3, then we will have the L3 head-end behavior. I am not seeing the reason for why we need this.
Yeah, thank you for Keaton. Maybe we should merge these theories and just define one theory.
But I'm just trying to understand the motivation for this configuration, because it depends really on what traffic is being steered, right? If the local policies or color community or whatever is applied to L2 traffic, then it has to go through HN caps dot L2. If it's L3 traffic, it will go through HN caps behavior. So why do we need any TLV at all for this? Maybe I'm missing something, but yeah.
Let's
The,
need
the question is why, similar to what I asked earlier about NRP at the head end, why do we need to include these TLVs in the steering SR policy? What value is it giving to the thing that's steering the policy? That's what Caton's asking. Can you answer that for us?
there is a need for a mechanism to configure the exploration behavior of head end for the SR policy. Currently, when BP dispute an SR policy, early the binding set had the steering behavior, but the in-cap or SR policy does not have the forwarding behavior. We may configure by another tools. We need a BP dispute.
The binding set behavior is completely, it's a segment SRv6 segment endpoint behavior, right? And H dot star behaviors are a head end behaviors. They are completely different from each other. They have no relation to each other. I don't know. I'll let Joel, maybe you have something.
So the only thing that occurs to me, I'm wondering, is this useful for specifying whether one is to do the reduced policy or not? Because there's h.ncaps and there's h.ncaps.reduced. Not to specify whether you're encapsulating the L2 or L3, but to specify whether you're supposed to use the regular or reduced mode. Is that one of the values of specifying this in the SR policy?
Chen Wang, we're not hearing your answer. Ming Chao, you can go ahead and speak to this if you would like to. I am not hearing Ming Chang. There you are.
Okay. I agree with Joe, and I think one of the most important function of this draft is to control whether we use a reduce function.
Sorry, is it one of the or the only thing?
In the previous version, we include the insertion functions. So we can control whether to encaps or insert, but in the current version, we remove the insertion. So I think it is the only function that if we are using the reduce function.
Okay. So I think there is definitely a value on configuring whether you want encap or insert. So, I mean, that totally makes sense to me. Whether to use reduced or non-reduced is I'm not sure whether it's really valuable, because practically everybody or all deployments, as far as I know, use the reduced option. It's only for some specific troubleshooting or some monitoring things that we use the non-reduce. If you want the first segment also to be there in the SRH. So so I think the previous version makes sense, but I don't know how it could progress because the insert is not adopted. So yeah.
So if you go forward with this, you need to make it clear what the purpose is. Um, uh, so that needs to be added prior to an adoption, and then other people can express their opinion, like Ketan, whether just the reduced versus non-reduced is appropriate. And Joel, does this need to go to spring first and then come back in the same way?
No, the behaviors they're citing are already defined.
Okay, so Ketan, thank you, Joel. That's very helpful. Ketan, did you have any other comments before we go on?
No, I don't have any other. I think I agree. It makes sense to have option of H in caps or H insert, but I don't see much value in the reduced and the non-reduced one. But yeah, that's just my.
Will if the authors need to make Chen Wang, you need to make it clear that what the focus is right now, and send the update to the chairs, and we can do an adoption call with that clear definition to see if anyone else feels the reduced, non-reduced is appropriate. Okay, let's go on. If there are no comments, we'll go on to the next draft. Chang Wang, I believe you are the person for the next draft. See if I've got the right one. Yes. Would you go ahead and speak on that one?
Yeah, okay. This draft is about the segment routing BPEP over layer 2 bundle members. Next slide, please. The main modification after Sharp's review. First, we described what mechanisms are missing and why RFC 1985 and 1986 need to be updated in Section 2 and Section 3. Second, add information about RFC update, head abstract, and instruction. Next slide, please. We can see the background of this draft, why the current mechanism is insufficient, and what this draft aims to address. First, RFC 1985 and 1986 early specified how BPRS advertised IGP layer 2 bundle member attribute information through the L2 bundle member attribute TLV, and with no mention of how BPEP over L2 bundle can be advertised through L2 bundle member attribute. Also, there is current a lack of mechanism description for BPEP operation on L2 bundle interface, as well as how to advise the peer ADJ set allocate on L2 bundle. So the aim of this draft, first we discuss how to support segment routing BGP EPE over layer 2 bundle members. Second, update RFC 1985 to allow the L2 bundle member attribute TLV to be added to the BGP LS attribute associated with the link NRI of BGP peering link. Thirdly, we updated RFC 1985 and 1986 to allow the PLADJ set TLV to be included as the sub-TLV of L2 bundle member attributes TLV. Next slide, please. Let's take a look at the
We've lost your sound, Chang Wang. I am not hearing Changwing sound. Jeff or KR, are you hearing it?
Actually, I'm not hearing as well.
Okay. Changling, you may want to try to restart your audio or exit the browser and come back in. We're not hearing your audio. While Changwing is doing that, Alvaro, have you seen the update to this draft?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Please go ahead.
Yeah.
I can hear you now. Please go ahead with your
Okay.
presentation.
Yeah. The operator of AS1 wishes to apply the BPEP policy to shield traffic from AS1 to AS2, while member link one of layer 2 bundle. So the BPEP requires two aspects of extension. First, allocate the BPPR seed for each bundle member links. Secondly, advertise these BPPRing seeds in BPRs. Next page. Let's take a look at on the existing TLVs as defined in RFC 1985, 1986, and 19514. For RFC 1985, it defined two TLVs, the ADJ-C TLV and the L2 bundle member attribute TLV. The ADJ-C TLV is used to advertise IGP ADJ-C for SRMPL state plane. It can be a sub-TLV of the L2 bundle member attribute TLV. L2 bundle member attribute TLV is only used for IGP links. This TLV should only be added to BPL's attribute associated with the link NLI that describe the link of IGP node that is originally the corresponding IGP TLVs. In RFC 1986, the peer-ADJ-C TLV is defined as followed. The peer-ADJ-C TLV is used to advertise the BPEP peer-ADJ-C for SR-MPL state plane. It is currently used for the L3 links and cannot be used as a sub-TLV of L2 bundle member attribute TLV. In RFC 18514, the SRv6 and 6 seed TLVs is defined as follows. It is used for both IGP and BPEP and can be sub-TLV of L2 bundle member attribute TLV. Next slide. So the request for BPLs to support EP over bundle members. First, we advertising identified for each bundle member link. Second, advertising link attribute such as delays. Thirdly, we advertising peer ADJ seed for each bundle member link. So we can choose to review the L2 bundle member attribute TLV to advertise the BPEP L2 bundle information. However, RFC 1985 restricted its use to IGP link only, and the application spoke of this TLV need to be updated. We can also review the TLV for peer ADJ set of the L3 links. And the peer ADJ set TLV is currently not allowed as a sub-TLV of L2 bundle member attribute TLV. So the application spoke of this TLV need to be updated. Next page, please. Based on the above analysis, we can take a look at the proposed BPL's advertised solution in our draft. This draft update FZ 1985 to allow the L2 bundle member attribute TLV to be added to the BP attribute associated with the link NOI BP peering link. And this draft update the FZ 1985 and 1986 to allow the PIDJC TLV to be included as a sub-TLV of the L2 bundle member attribute TLV. Also, no update is needed for SRv6. Below, we can look at a specific example of advertising an L2 bundle. First, we advertise a link NRI. Then we add a link attribute for the link NRI. For SRMPL's forwarding data play, for the S3 link, we advertise the PIDJ set TLV. Second, we advertise the L2 bundle member link attribute TLV for member link 1. Under this L2 bundle member attribute TLV, advertise the label assigned to member link 1 using the PIDJ set TLV. Advertising for the member link 2, advertising for L2 bundle member attribute. Under this L2 bundle member attribute TLV, we advertise the label assigned to member link 2 using the PIDJ set TLV. For SRv6 forwarding, for the S3 link, advertised an SRv6 and X set TLV. And for member link, each member link, we advertise the L2 bundle member attribute TLV. And under this L2 bundle member attribute TLV, we can advertise the SRv6 and 6 assigned to each member link using the SRv6 and exit TLV. Also, the inclusion of L2 bundle member attribute TLV implies that the identified member link is up. If any member link fails, the L2 bundle member attribute TLV must be restored along with the associated PIDJ set. Next slide. That's all. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you. Chengling, Caton or Jeff, would you like to make any of those comments online? Carrie, you're first in the queue.
Yeah, I think this is good as it stands. The only question or comment I have for the draft authors is in layer 2 bundles, there are things like MC-lag across bundles across different devices. And these are things to prevent bump traffic from looping forever. If you are going to use SR policies to steer the packet onto a particular link that is, again, on a standby, maybe this draft can add a section that says how the bump traffic would not be affected and how the steering is done such that there are no loops in the network. Other than that, it looks good.
Any other comments? Go ahead, Ketan.
I just wanted to thank Alvaro for his review and feedback and about the points on whether this draft needs to formally update the existing BGPLS. draft. I think he makes a good point, and we'll discuss amongst the author whether that formal update is needed. But if the working group chairs have some, or anybody else has some inputs on that, we will appreciate the feedback.
Changwang, thank you for your presentation. I would like to see the information on the bum traffic and the steering loops in this before we go to adoption. But we'll probably send it to Spring and IDR at the same time, just an FYI to Spring. Alvaro, does this need to hold up on Spring? My understanding is no.
No, it doesn't.
Okay. So I will also, Chen Wang, review your presentation carefully and see if I have any other comments. But please, the first step for you and Caton is to review Alvaro's comments and add Kate Kier's comments on the bump traffic. I think with my background in other L2 bundling protocols, the bump traffic is critical to put in there. Okay, and once you do that, we'll walk toward the adoption process. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And I believe our last presentation is on SR policy extensions. And I'm not sure who's presenting on that one. Kenzang, are you presenting?
Yeah.
Okay,
Can you hear
please.
me?
I
Okay.
can, and I will run slides for you. Just tell me when.
Okay. This is Ka from Huawei, and this is my presentation for BGP as a policy extension for template. Next slide, please. In deployment of SR policy, a set of features need to be enabled on candidate paths. These features are only meaningful between the controller and the head-end node. For BGP SR policy, using template for such features can show the information that BGP does not to understand. For example, there are two SR policies, and each SR policy has different candidate paths. And for this is one SR policy and has two different candidate paths, and the preference is different. And for preference for the candidate path with preference 200, it needs the seamless BFD enable BFD, and the BFD minimum TX interval is 20 milliseconds, and also traffic statistics are enabled. And for another candidate path with preference 100, this is the higher preference. Maybe this is not right. And this preference 100 has backup path enable seamless BFD, and BFD parameter is different. And with this, maybe such red features of the candidate path may change frequently, and if we using a template can avoid the BGP protocol from changing frequently. And also, as a policy candidate path with the same set of features can reuse the same template, thus can simplify configuration and improve maintainability. For example, if there are another SR policy with two different candidate paths, and each for primary, one for primary and another for secondary, then these two candidate paths may have can use the same template with this SR policy. Next slide, please. And so we define a template. This template is a group of features to be used with SR policy candidate path and an identifier which is meaningful to the head end of the SR policy. And we can configure the template ID and the template contents on the head end of SR policy using CLI or YARN. And also then PCE can calculate the path of the SR policy and advertise the path information using BGP SR policy, which carries the template ID in SR policy candidate path attributes. And then when the SR policy head end nodes find the contents of the template using template ID, and then it can set up the path with the features defined in the template. Next slide, please. And this is the format of the template sub-TLV, and it is defined in the SR policy SAFI NLRI and is used for the SR policy candidate path. And with this, full OSINT template ID is defined. And also, we can define an optional template name for this template. Next slide, please. And then for the advertisement of SR policy with template ID, we can see that template ID is carried with the candidate path advertised using BGP. And depending on the attributes required by SR policy, different candidate paths of the same SR policy may have different template IDs or the same different ID. This document does not change the procedure of BGP-based SR policy advertisement. And the template is only processed on the head end of SR policy in the SR policy module. The SR policy module checks the local configured template using template ID, gets the group of features that are included in the template and enables the features on the candidate path. If there is no corresponding template found, the SRPM should ignore the template ID and use the candidate path as if there is no template. Next slide, please. And there are some comments reviewed on IETF 119. And the first is what is the scope of the template ID? Who allocates it? As the template ID is managed by the controller in a network which have the controller, then so its scope is network wide. The template ID and the content of the template are configured via CLI or controller on the head end nodes. The same template can be used on multiple head end nodes. And the second is to clarify the content of the usage of a template. A template defines a group of features to be applied to a candidate path. For example, the protection, the BFD and the OM parameters, etc. And a template does not contain or change attributes of the path. For example, the BC, the ENLP segment list, etc. And we'll clarify this in next vision. Next slide, please. And also there are some review comments from Shepard, and first is why should the BGP be passing a configuration template plan? For example, there may be many different features that need to be fulfilled in the head end on the header end nodes. But if all these are defined in the BGP protocol, this may made the BGP protocol change very frequently. So we define this template ID, this template to be configured in the head end of SR policy, and then BGP is extended to only carry the template ID of SR policy candidate path. Then the candidate path can use all the features that is defined in the template. And second, how does BGP validate SR policy template? The template ID is an optional TLV of SR policy candidate path attribute. It does not change the validation procedure of BGP SR policy. And third, why are the constraints based on root target constraints valid for this use case? As the template ID does not change the distribution of SR policy, it can be either via direct BGP session or based on RTC when RR is used. And then is has Spring approved the template approach. This draft has not discussed in the Spring group yet. So we would like to seek feedback from Spring WG on the template approach. Next slide, please. And then is the processing of SR policy with template ID on RR. From the template define, we can see that RR is not aware of the content of the template. It should propagate the SR policy routers as defined in the SR policy draft. And processing of the SR policy with template ID on head end nodes. Head node ends check the local configured templates based on the template ID. If the template can be found, then the features included in the template are enabled for the candidate path. If there is no matching template, the template ID is ignored. And then the procedure between template and no templates, the existence of template ID does not change the precedence of the candidate path. It just check to use a template or not use the template for no templates. And then I will update the reference to this two drafts. Next slide, please. And the next step, we will collect feedback from Spring on the template approach and then update the draft to address shepherd review comments. That's all. Thank you.
Keaton, go ahead.
Thanks. So, Ketan Talwalkar, Cisco. I believe I had made this comment previously when this draft was presented, and it was a question whether this template that is being is the same as the profile ID in PSEP. Would you be able to?
Yeah, I have remember this, and I have checked the draft for the PSEP for the profile ID, and I think this draft the usage of the template is really the same with the profile ID in PSEP. So we can check how I think the template or the profile is just the definition and their usage is the same. Then we can check it together.
Yeah, so my suggestion then would be to just maybe call it a profile ID and just put a reference to the PSEP draft, because that is exactly the same thing, and just something that is borrowed from PSEP into BGP. It might just help the document, make the document more clearer and with its progression. So that's just a suggestion.
Okay. I will check. We can talk about later. I think maybe.
Sure. So I agree with the. Yeah, I agree with the purpose of the, I mean, what a draft is trying to do. So I don't have a concern on that. The second question was, uh, is this an attribute of the candidate path or of the SR policy? I think may have to look at it a little more carefully, and maybe have some text explaining. I don't know whether it's in this draft or if it should be in spring, or like how we do that. But the pros and cons and why it was decided to be at the candidate path level. Uh, and that's about all I had.
Okay, okay. I'll check later.
Thank you.
Alvaro, you're next in the queue.
Hi. So I was gonna, yeah, something similar to what Ken said. Can someone please point at that PSEP draft? Because the discussion here about the template idea, or I think you called it the template architecture, Sue, in your review, is bigger than this draft. I mean, this draft, all it says is I'm going to have a TLV to advertise the template ID, right? But similar to what Ken said, there's a lot more to the use of templates, right? Are they only part of the of some of the whole policy? Or are they only the part of a subset of the policy? I don't know. Questions about can they be nested or not? There's an assertion in the draft about, well, if you don't know what the ID is, then don't use anything, which I believe is a problem, because there may be things that you wanted to do with that path that you are not doing now, just because you didn't know what an ID was assigned to. So those types of things I think should be considered somewhere. So yes, I think this needs to be discussed in spring. The concept of the template, I'm going to call it architecture, like you did in your review, Sue, which is bigger than this draft, right? So in other words, discussing this draft in spring doesn't take us closer to anything, because this draft only says I'm going to carry a
ID.
Template ID, which we can call it profile ID or whatever else we can call it, but it doesn't tell us the whole structure of what the templates are going to look like and how they're going to work.
I think, Cog, you will notice that's behind questions 5, 6, and 7. I am looking for the architecture behind it. I realize you've given me definitive answers, which I appreciate, but I need to have that architecture discussion in spring and the PSEP draft. Ketan, if you have the PSEP draft, will you type that into the chat window? Or if Drew's still here, if he could type that into the window. Nope, Drew is gone. Okay, thank you, G-Dong. G, you had some comments. My apologies for going ahead.
Yeah, I just sent the link to the past profile draft to the chat
Thank
window.
you.
Yeah, maybe you can take a look. But it's still an individual draft. Maybe you can see how we can work together to move forward both, and also see whether we need a template architecture in spring, and what would be the coordination between the architecture draft and these two extensions. As Aro just mentioned, these extensions are maybe simpler than the architecture. So we need some advice about how to move forward all this.
Right.
In the future.
If it's simpler than the architecture, then we need to go forward. If Alvaro's draft expired, work with Alvaro to either revise it or go forward. We need to get to a little bit more detail on the template. And Cobb, this was a great presentation. I do not want to not say thank you for going through the questions carefully and working on answers that really helped us get to the next step of what do we do next. I appreciate that. We have G, if you're done, I'm gonna, did you want to make any further comments? Nat, it's your comment.
Okay, I have raised two questions on the list before for this draft, and one I think it has been addressed in number 3 or number 2, and the other question is that how do we do with the behavior about the template modification behavior for those HR policies that is active, but they are referring to the template we're modifying. That I think that should be mentioned also. And as you said in I think it's okay, I'll check the new version of this draft. As you said, there will be no conflict between the attributes of the BGP updates and the template itself. I'll check the new version about that. So yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Nat. Go ahead, Ka.
Okay, thank you. And for your question, I think if BGP has downloaded the SR policy with the template, then if we change the template on the head end nodes, then the SR policy candidate path will use the newly updated attributes in the template and update the candidate path. And I will update this procedure in the next version. Thank you for your comment.
You need to note Caton's comment. There are implementations with vendor specific TLVs. Please talk to Caton and find exactly what he implies there and if there are pros and cons. This is a specification which is tapping for PCP. This specification is tapping on a larger set of work that needs to be looked at between PCE, Spring, and other things. I still, once I read the updated draft one more time with your presentation, Vine, I need to still see more details on the precedents, but I believe this will all work out in the discussion. So your next step is start the thread that works on the PCE draft, revise based on comments here, and send first to Spring. We can continue to work on updates in IDR, but I think we need to get the Spring general concept done before we go for adoption. Okay? Interesting concept. I look forward to your next updates, and I'll try to write a good summary of this discussion. Anyone else for this discussion? Then I believe we've reached the end of our interim. Thank you. It was a very effective, very productive interim. Kayer, Jeff, any comments?
None from me.
None for me.
Hal, then we'll hand you back more time in your day. Have a great day, and thank you again for the presenters. I will send a more detailed minutes on this since it gave action items. Thank you again. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
I